Snow White. But no sooner did the comb touch her hair than the poison began to work, and she fell fainting to the ground. "There, you model of beauty," said the wicked woman. "You are done for at last." But fortunately, it was almost time for the dwarfs to come home, and as soon as they came in and found Snow White lying upon the ground, they guessed that her wicked stepmother had been there again, and set to work to find out what was wrong. They soon saw the poisonous comb and drew it out of her hair, and almost immediately Snow White began to recover and told them what had happened. Once more they warned her to be on her guard and to open the door to no one. When the Queen reached home, she went straight to the mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" And the mirror answered, "O Lady Queen, though fair ye be, Snow White is fairer far to see. Over the hills and far away, she dwells with 7 dwarfs today." When the Queen heard these words, she shook with rage. "Snow White shall die," she cried, "even if it costs me my own life." She went into a secret chamber where no one else ever entered, and there she made a poisonous apple, and then she painted her face and disguised herself as a peasant woman, and climbed the 7 mountains and went to the dwarf's house. She knocked at the door. Snow White put her head out of the window and said, "I must not let anyone in. The 7 dwarfs have forbidden me to do so." "It's all the same to me," answered the peasant woman. "I shall soon get rid of these fine apples. But before I go, I'll make you a present of one." "Oh no," said Snow White, "for I must not take it." "Surely you are not afraid of poison?" said the woman. "See, I will cut one in 2. The rosy cheek you shall take, and the white cheek I will eat myself." Now, the apple had been so cleverly made that only the rose cheek side contained the poison. Snow White longed for the delicious-looking fruit, and when she saw that the woman ate half of it, she thought there could be no danger, and stretched out her hand and took the other part. But no sooner had she tasted it than she fell down dead. The wicked Queen laughed out loud with joy as she gazed at her. "White as snow, red as blood, black as ebony. This time the dwarfs cannot take you." And she went straight home and asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror upon the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" And at length it answered, "Thou, O Queen, art fairest of all." So her envious heart had peace at last, as much as an envious heart can have peace. When the little dwarfs came home at night, they found Snow White lying upon the ground. No breath came from her parted lips, for she was dead. They lifted her tenderly and sought for some poisonous object which might have caused the mischief, and laced her frock, combed her hair, and washed her with wine and water, but all in vain. Dead she was, and dead she remained. They laid her upon a bier, and all 7 of them sat round it, and wept as though their hearts would break, for 3 whole days. When the time came that she should be laid in the ground, they could not bear to part from her. Her pretty little cheeks were still rosy red, and she looked just as though she was still living. "We cannot hide her away in the dark earth," said the dwarfs. And so they made her a transparent coffin of shining glass, and laid her in it, and wrote her name upon it in letters of gold, and that she was the king's daughter. Then they put the coffin out upon the mountain top, and one of them always stayed by it and watched it. And birds came too, and wept for Snow White, first an owl, then a raven, and last a dove. For a long, long time little Snow White lay in the coffin, but she did not change. She only looked as though she slept, for her skin was still as white as snow, her lips as red as blood, and her hair as black as ebony. It chanced that a king's son came into the wood, and went to the dwarf's house, meaning to spend the night there. He saw the coffin upon the mountain top, with little Snow White lying within it, and he read the words that were written upon it in letters of gold. And he said to the dwarfs, "If you will but let me have the coffin, you may ask of me what you will, and I will give it to you." But the dwarfs answered, "We would not sell it for all the gold in the world." Then said the prince, "Let me have it as a gift, I pray you, for I cannot live without seeing little Snow White, and I will prize your gift as the dearest of my possessions." The good little dwarfs pitied him when they heard these words, and so gave him the coffin. The king's son then bade his servants place it upon their shoulders and carry it away. But as they went, they stumbled over the stump of a tree, and the violent shaking shook the piece of poisonous apple which had lodged in Snow White's throat out again, so that she opened her eyes, raised the lid of the coffin, and sat up alive once more. "Where am I?" she cried. And the happy prince answered, "Thou art with me, dearest." Then he told her all that had happened, and how he loved her better than the whole world, and begged her to go with him to his father's palace and be his wife. Snow White agreed and went with him, and the wedding was celebrated with great splendour and magnificence. Little Snow White's wicked stepmother was invited to the feast, and when she had dressed herself in the most beautiful clothes, she stood before her mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror upon the wall, who is the fairest of all?" And the mirror answered, "O Lady Queen, though fair ye be, the young queen is fairer to see." Oh, how angry the wicked woman was then, and so terrified too, that she scarcely knew what to do. No sooner did she enter the palace than she recognized little Snow White, and could not move for terror. A pair of red-hot iron shoes was brought into the room with tongs, and set before her, and these she was forced to put on and to dance in them until she could dance no longer, but fell down dead. And that was the end of the Wicked Queen.
Fortunately. Fortunately. Guess. Guess. Peasant. Peasant. Gaze at. Gaze at. Transparent. Transparent. Coffin. Coffin. Dove. Dove. Possession. Possession. Magnificence. Magnificence. Fall down. Fall down.
Nếu thấy hay và hữu ích, các bạn hãy like, share và comment ủng hộ ở bên dưới nhé. Để theo dõi nhiều bài học bổ ích khác, các bạn hãy subscribe kênh YouTube của Tobika Native nhé.